do this thing here. Start with SmackDown.
SmackDown opened with Chris Jericho coming out. He said he was complaining about Randy Orton getting a title shot against Swagger because you see Randy Orton is on Raw and the world title should be defended exclusively on SmackDown. He said he was entitled to a rematch, but Teddy Long was the most incompetent buffoon ever in a position of power, and so he was not getting one. He had valid points on both issues here. He demanded Teddy resign immediately, and also demanded that he get a title match of the Orton-Swagger winner as soon as that match was over. So Edge came out. He actually agreed with some of Jericho's points, including that the title should stay on SmackDown and that Jericho does deserve a rematch. But he said Jericho was not the guy to save the title for SmackDown. He was damaged goods. They had a rather awkward stare down for a while until Teddy Long came out, the real Teddy Long, in a very fat suit, white and gold plaid, looked awesome. He said it was Jericho's fault that he didn't get a rematch since he couldn't beat Edge. This is bullshit. Every champion ever has got an automatic rematch, and Jericho had to fight for one, so that's not fair. He said Jericho would get his rematch tonight, but to make a long story short, he booked Jericho versus Edge versus Swagger, any three-way for the title, for free with no build.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I presume there's going to be drafting going on.
Well, there's that too.
Next Monday, actually. Dave asked if I could do the SmackDown report for the newsletter this week, and I actually had to sit there last night and rack my brain to remember if I'd remember to watch this show. I had absolutely no memory of this program.
I was well aware that I had watched the show, but when before I was looking at the NFL schedule thing, I was looking over my notes saying, what the hell happened on the show? I remembered exactly one segment, and of all things, it was the next one coming up, which was Drew McIntyre versus Kane. And there's a reason I remembered this.
Well, tell me what it is, because I don't remember it at all.
Well, I'll explain the segment first and then why I remembered it. Drew cut a promo saying people were jealous of him for being young and pretty, and the champion and the chosen one, he didn't like them either. That was that. So they had a short match, was not very good. Drew tried to run away. Matt Hardy ran down, threw him back in for the DQ.
By the way, he threw him back into the ring for the disqualification.
That does seem like it happens all the time, and it's not a DQ.
Stupid!
So, yes. So Kane lost. So he chokeslammed Drew because he was angry, and then chokeslammed Matt because he cost him the title, or cost him the match. And I've been watching in the tape review the history of the Intercontinental Championship. And it was once, the biggest stars in the company were the world champion and whoever he was feuding with. And then stars 3 and 4 were the Intercontinental Champion and his challenger. And now it's Drew and Matt being beat up by Kane, who has nothing going on, just down at the very, very bottom of the show, and it made me very sad.
This just occurred to you.
It was emphasized.
I see.
The title...
Yes, everyone, the Intercontinental Championship means jack shit.
Absolutely nothing.
Unless you're Melina, in which case, I'm sure it's a very, very important championship here in the company. Swagger met with Teddy Long and said this was ridiculous, and Teddy said he was in charge, and Swagger was going to have to do it. Dolph came out, apologized to Josh Matthews. I love this because it was like, they said Teddy Long had demanded he apologize. So he came out and did the phoniest apology ever. And I just thought, so Teddy's okay with that.
It was actually, it was hysterical because the words he was saying actually were, apologetic. He was talking about apologizing from the bottom of his heart and the cockles of his soul. And then he actually says, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But apparently he qualified. So, I don't know. It's wrestling. Who cares?
I care.
All right.
Because I have to watch it. WWE has been horrendous lately in terms of logic. This was a great example of that. So, they did the match, R-Truth and Dolph. Dolph beat him with the sleeper, which the teacher said involved pressure to the sides of the neck and the temples. The temples!
Apparently he did not teach anatomy.
No.
Yeah, they're trying to get the sleeper over, so at least they realize he needs to win matches with it.
Against the Truth.
Well, it's a start.
The Truth's last match.
In the last match of his life.
Yeah.
Yes. We had Mickie James versus Michelle McCool. Team Lay Cool had a fantastically terrible choreographed entrance, showing off basically their hoodies. I think it was seriously the most entertaining thing Michelle has ever done. And then they had a pretty fun match, actually, so maybe I was too harsh. And Layla got involved, and Stryker complained. She was pulled into the ring by Mickie, and Stryker complained, and I quote, "Come on, Layla's wearing pink Uggs." I guess that meant she was off limits. So this distraction let Michelle hit a high kick and won.
She pulled the girl over the top rope, off the apron, into the ring, into the competition area, attacked her. This was not a disqualification. Matt Hardy had thrown a man into the competition area who was in the match. That was a DQ. All I ask is for everything to be consistent throughout the show.
Well, of the two, it's not Layla's fault Mickey attacked her.
Still.
Will you disqualify Mickey?
Okay, so if you're having a UFC match and Brock Lesnar reaches over the cage and pulls a fucking dude into the cage and starts beating on him, the match is just going to continue?
I don't know.
Probably not.
But I know for sure if Shane Carwin's corner jumps in and hits Brock with a chair, that will be a DQ.
Yeah, but that didn't happen in the Matt match. That would be like if Shane Carwin tried to lose and he got shoved back into the cage.
It is.
If he tried to leave.
We are now stretching this analogy.
But this is true.
Never happen in a UFC fight unless...
All right, well, let's say that Brock
wait. If Dana had jumped in the ring and pushed Anderson Silva into Damian Maya, that would have been Matt Hardy throwing...
No. This would be like if Anderson Silva got so bored that he went over and opened the cage door and tried to just leave the building, and Dana White shoved his ass back in and closed the door, and then they called a DQ. Bullshit. Bullshit this was. What have we been talking about?
So anywho, Michelle went with a high kick. They went to beat her up more, but Beth saved. And Beth and Mickey are friends now. So they aired a graphic for an upcoming six-man tag with Darren Young. He showed more charisma in this 2-second graphic than in his entire NXT career.
Yeah.
We had, speaking of Darren Young, Luke Gallows and Darren Young had a stare down. Luke vowed to beat Darren to a pulp and shave his head. And then Punk broke it up and told them if they wanted to fight, they could fight out there in front of the world. So you had CM Punk and Luke Gallows and Darren Young versus the Hart Dynasty and Rey Mysterio.
The best part of this was Miz on commentary saying that he hoped Todd Grisham got, quote, drafted to the Indies.
Yes.
That's what he said.
What if Strikers and Tulalip next month?
Hey.
Who knows? Anything can happen. I was annoyed, an annoying note to the SmackDown director. When Miz is on commentary, we can hear him. We don't need to see him. You can show us the wrestling match, especially when it involves guys like Tyson Kidd and Rey Mysterio.
Yes.
We like to watch them wrestle.
Ray hit the 619 and Punk around the post. Punk stumbled into Harry. Harry hit the running power slam. 1, 2, 3. I don't know what to make of all of these jobs by CM Punk.
He did lose here, didn't he?
Yes. Yeah. And on Raw.
Well, at least this one he lost to the guy who's wrestling on the pay-per-view.
No, he didn't. Harry hit him with a running power slam.
You are correct. It's 619, power slam. I missed that in my notes. But yes, so he is just being pinned by random men. I don't know. Maybe he was dressing badly again.
Perhaps WWE and Impact have switched writing crews. That's all I can figure out.
Maybe their writers got drafted to Impact.
Maybe they did, and vice versa. We had Jericho doing a deal with Wade Barrett.
There's also a note in that match when they were talking about the upcoming hair match for CM Punk. And they asked Miz what CM Punk might look like bald, and his response was, I'm not making this up, he couldn't look any worse. Wow.
JTG and Kalen Croft, a real match, everybody.
Yes. How anyone can care about this, I don't know.
JTG won, and then Shad hit the ring and beat the shit out of him again. This time, at least, JTG got to make a brief comeback. He sent Shad packing. Old school babyface comeback, punches, drop kick, whole 9 yards. People cheered. This feud must continue.
I suppose.
Yeah.
JTG has a new look. He pulled out the braids or cornrows and got his hair straightened. I really hate it.
It's a bad look for him.
It's a terrible look.
Edge and Josh had a meeting, which was fabulous, because Josh was not interviewing Edge.
No.
Edge apparently ran into Josh, his new best buddy. They chit-chatted about the main event, strategy and such, and then Edge happily walked off. Awesome!
All right. So we had our main event. It was, as noted, Jack Swagger versus Edge versus Chris Jericho. There was a lot of this is a very wrestling-heavy show. The six-man tag went forever. This three-way also got a lot of time. They double-teamed on Edge for a while until it was time to start fighting amongst each other. Jericho got the walls on both guys. They teased the Dr. Bomb. They teased the spear. Edge finally hit a spear on Jericho, and Swagger pulled him out of the ring and jumped in and stole the win. A desperately needed win for Jack Swagger, even if it was stolen. And then he celebrated with his belt, which looks so small in his gigantic hands.
I thought they did a good job with him, and then, of course, they had to mess the whole thing up. So, way to go, everybody. We'll talk about Raw here in just a second. Match was good. I really enjoyed the match.
Yes, Swagger, he pinned Jericho. He then leaned out Edge and walked away, and I was stunned. I was certain that even though he had won, he would get speared or codebreakered or something. But no, he left with his belt held high.
They did something good with him for one day and then screwed it all up.
On the next show.
Let's play a song.
Old Man River, that old man River, he must know something, but...
You asshole.
Here you go.
That's as far as he got, though. Keep trying, guys. Keep trying.